All right. Hi there. Today we're going to start talking about our class that is curriculum development, the ECED 160 curriculum development, class number 2. All right. So I have here for you, this is a little bit of a view of our syllabus, right? So we have what is scope and sequence, what is lesson planning, and we're going to talk about textbooks. So some of the things that you should have or coming in the mail, you should have your developmentally appropriate practice. This is our textbook for this class, all right? There are so many great things in this book, so you need that for this class. And there are two other suggested books that I really like. If you teach primarily toddlers or younger children, maybe infants, you would probably love the Ultimate Toddler Activity Guide. If you look at the table of contents, you would see that there's activities for different themes. For example, farm. You would have activities for special celebrations like holidays and other special occasions like ocean or like insects, like animals, the five senses, Spanish activities, habitats, weather, zoo, other things like that. And they're really great for lesson planning. So I would totally say get something like that. It's about $20. You can keep it and you can use it as a resource. And it has tons of examples for you. All right, it's not required, but it's something that you might want to have. And then the other one that we decided to choose was the Ultimate Kindergarten Prep Guide. It is a book for preschoolers getting ready to go to kindergarten. So all of the activities here are also targeted towards prepping the preschoolers to be ready to go to kinder. So this one is a little more standards based. So it's like math, and then it's broken down into geometry, measurement, and then operations in algebra, and then other specific components for math, and then language arts. There's reading, there's writing, there is language, then there's science, social studies, life science, and then there's stuff about government. There's life skills about like fine and motor skills, about knowing your address and phone numbers and being a citizen, and tons of other things. So again, you don't have to have this book, but it has several different activities for you to do with your students if you're running out of ideas on what to do with them. Because sometimes we run out of ideas and it's a little bit difficult when it comes to that, right? To have, inspiration, I guess. And then also today we're gonna go over lesson planning, examples of lesson plans. So how do you lesson plan? I'm gonna go through each step of lesson planning, how I would do it for, a preschool. How would I do that? I have a lot of years of experience teaching elementary school, so I know a lot about standards-based teaching. So I will walk you through the process of lesson planning for preschool, and using the same process as I used to do when I taught K-12 as well. And also preschool, I taught preschool for a few years. And so it is excellent to just bring that back. And so you also see on this page right here on the right side, you see there will be an assignment at the end of today's video. So you can see that I'll get you ready for that. There's a template that is posted under class number 2. So you're gonna have a blank document that you're gonna have to use to create your own lesson plan for week 1 of teaching. You're gonna create a 4-week unit for your students. You're gonna have, if you don't have students, you're gonna pretend you have students. So you're gonna have to like think about an age group, maybe, for example, 4 or 5-year-olds. Maybe that's the age group you're teaching, or 2 to 3-year-olds, or maybe you're teaching preschool, the 5-year-olds. So you're gonna have to think about what age group you're gonna focus on, and then you're gonna go, you know, through the process of creating those lesson plans. All right, so be ready to learn and be ready to create something awesome. Let's see. I would always suggest for our classes, always have a notebook and something to write, you know, your notes on. It's really important when you are having classes like this that you know, have something to look at and go back to, because our brain forgets. And then I found this and I thought it was kind of cool. It says, I will teach you in a room. I will teach you now on Zoom. I will teach you in a house. I will teach you with my mouse, right? Exactly. I will teach you here or there. I will teach you because I care. So I guess now with all, you know, the new technologies, we have to teach our students sometimes from far away, and we're not used to that. So, you know, welcome to the new century and the new skills that we have to learn. And I thought that was kind of cute, and I added that here. So we're going to talk about chapter 1 first of our book, Developmentally Appropriate Practice. Guiding questions for today. Number 1, what is developmentally appropriate practice? If you think about that, it's kind of like self-explanatory. So if you're a practicing teacher, you're going to look at the development of a child to be able to teach that kid. So there will be lots of observations and lots of thinking behind that practice of teaching, right? So you're going to be observing that child and tailoring that the teaching to the students that you have, right? So we'll talk more about that in a second. Number 2, what is curriculum? That's a good question. That is the like $1 million question. And 3, what is curriculum development? That is like the $2 million question that you're like, Angela, tell me right now, because I'm like, okay, this is what I'm here for, right? And 4, what is scope and sequence? You're like, I have no idea what a scope and sequence could be. Maybe the word sequence, and then you're like, what's scope? What's scope, right? Think about that, scope. What's like we're gonna learn overall, right? So keep those questions in mind as we go through that. So what exactly is curriculum? So I'm gonna tell you that curriculum is not a box full of books. Because I once thought that, my district's getting curriculum. Great, we're gonna get a box full of books. And then I got the box full of books and I was like, this is not what I signed up for. And so it's like, it's not just the books. It's about the whole learning experience that comes with those books, correct? So can I say that then the curriculum would be specific learning standards, the lessons, the assignments that come with that box, and the materials, of course, that are in the box used to organize and teach a particular course. So if I say that I'm getting curriculum delivered to my school, well, maybe it comes with a box of books, but what is it that I'm teaching the students? What are the standards, the learning goals, right? And the lessons I'm gonna be providing the students. What are the assignments? What are the materials that I'm gonna have to use to be able to deliver that learning, right? So that is curriculum. Now I answered that question. So if you need to write that down, you can pause the video at any time and write it down, okay? All right, so what is a scope and sequence in teaching? So a scope and sequence is a term that describes the ideas and concepts that will be covered in a book or course within a curriculum. So It's ideas and concepts that will be covered. It refers to the plans intended to support students' learning. So what is the scope? What is it that they're gonna learn overall? And what is the sequence? This image that I have on the screen has week 1, week 2, week 3, and it has all those areas: reading, writing, math, social studies, and science, right? So you have to like know when you're teaching and what you're teaching. That's kind of a no-brainer. But sometimes if you don't plan ahead, you don't know what you're teaching, and it kind of gets difficult. So you have to have some planning. Planning is better if you do it with a partner or a team of people. All right, so that's easy for you right there. All right, so that gets me kind of excited to talk about page 6 in our book. So if you have your book, open it to page 6, all right? Page 6 will tell us all about intentional teaching. Let's see, I will open my book to give you time also to find your box right there. When teachers are intentional, they do the following. So I'm gonna read that to you. So they create learning environments that offer richness in materials and experiences. So if you're that teacher, you're going to be creating rich learning environments, right? With tons of experiences for the kids. You're going to encourage children's exploration and ideas. So I am thinking, when I read that, I'm thinking about asking questions, having the kids like explore the thinking behind the thinking, have them be like excited about what they're learning, asking questions, right? Engage, the third bullet is engage in respectful and reciprocal conversations with children. So when I read that bullet, I think about communication. I think about the adults and the kids having academic conversations about what they're learning, having conversations about anything that they need, right? Now, the next bullet says, know the content of each area of learning. Also, you don't need to be perfect at everything you teach, but you need to be knowledgeable and learn every single day a little bit more than the day before, right? You need to master your content every single day a little bit more than the day before, so that you can be that expert in the classroom. So of course, an example, so I'm from Brazil, and when I moved here 10 years ago, I didn't know a lot about Lewis and Clark and the explorers going west and all that stuff. So the first time I had to teach that content to my fourth graders, I wasn't very knowledgeable, so my depth of knowledge was very shallow because I had not learned that in Brazil. So I studied it, I taught my unit, I was okay. Second year, better than the first year. And so when I was teaching it for the 5th time, I was an expert. My activities that I brought to class, they were just, whoa, amazing. We got to a point that we even built wagons for the pioneers. We had campfire stories. We had the parents come in. I mean, you take it to a different level. So you need to be knowledgeable about what you're teaching. So you don't have to be an expert the first day, but you will become one, right? All right, the next bullet is know the standards and benchmarks of required learning. So you need to know where the kids are headed with their learning so that you can take them there, right? Get them there. Know and use specific teaching strategies that can be adapted in various situations. So you need to start, imagine you have a backpack, right? And your backpack might be a little bit empty right now. So you have your backpack right there and you're like, this is my teaching backpack. It's a little empty. Maybe yours is already full. So that's my example, right? But yours is already full. Maybe you've been teaching for a long time. But as you teach, you learn new strategies. So your backpack is getting fuller and fuller and fuller every single day. And so it's really great to see that you can actually feel like your backpack is getting heavier and heavier. So those strategies that you're acquiring and piling up they can be used in many different situations. You can transfer that knowledge to other teaching experiences or learning experiences for your students. All right, so keep that backpack getting heavy day by day, and then share your strategies with others that you know, like I like to do. The next bullet says are planful, purposeful, and thoughtful. So if you're intentional, you're planning, you're purposeful about what you're planning, and you're thinking about what you're going to be teaching, right? And you take advantage of teachable moments. That's our next bullet. And the next one makes me think about portfolios and assessment. Observe children carefully to learn interests and ability for next steps. So we know that since mid to 2019, learning centers have to have some sort of assessment, portfolio, something to show the parents and the state of the kids are learning, right? So maybe that's something that you're going to be thinking about. How can I observe the children in what they want to learn about so that I can, put something together to show that they're learning? So just something to think about. The next two bullets are, last two, adapt teaching strategies for individuals and groups. So that makes me think of the word differentiation. How do you change it up for a group? How do you change it up for one student? And then how do you reflect on and respond to children's learning? So if they are learning, what's next? If they're not learning, how do you change it up and make it relevant? All right. All right, on page 7, you will find the star. All right, and the star talks about the dimensions of early childhood practice. So in a nutshell, it talks about, number 1, creating a caring community of learners within the context of relationships in the classroom. So number 1 is relationships. Build relationships with your kids so you can create curriculum that is relevant to their learning. Number 2, teaching to enhance development and learning is really important, right? You have to teach to enhance development and learning. That's your goal. 3, construct appropriate curriculum with attention to both content and strategies. 4, assessing children's learning and development, which I just mentioned that, you need to have some sort of assessment tool like a portfolio or something of that sort, to show that students are progressing. You would hope that they're progressing. And then 5, and then you have establishing reciprocal relationships with families. Now, number 5, in my opinion, is essential. When you have the families working with you, you can do a lot more. You can do so much more for the students because you're like making it all connected. You can, work together and you can have so much more fun. If they are invested and they know what you're doing, they will do the same at home, and you can do the same that they're doing at home. At school, you're bridging their experiences, the home experiences and the school experiences, and it's a lot more relevant for students. So think about that. How can you do that for students? How can you make that connection very purposeful? All right, and so here's the star. That's just your visual for you. All right, on your paper that you have for your notes, I want you to write down in the next minute or two, what are the characteristics of a good preschool, in your opinion? If you had to write a few good things about a preschool, if you were to choose a preschool for your daughter or your son, or if you were to look for a new job, or if you were to open a preschool right now, what would you say would be the main important characteristics for that school. All right, go ahead and you can pause the video for a second and write a few things down before I talk about that. All right? All right, so NIAC lists the following as characteristics of a good preschool. All right, so children spend most of their time playing and working with materials or other children. They do not wander aimlessly, and they are not expected to sit quietly for long periods of time. So kids that are actually in a good preschool, they're just not gonna be sitting there and walking around with nothing to do. They will do something with a purpose, right? So a good preschool, hopefully you wrote something like that. Number one would be that. Two, children have access to different activities throughout the day. Look for assorted building blocks, other construction materials, props for a pretend play, picture books, paints and other art materials, table toys, such as matching games, pegboards, and puzzles. And they should not be doing the same thing at the same time. There should be diverse things happening, right? Number three, teachers work with individual children, small groups, and the whole group at different times during the day. They do not spend all their time with the whole group because we know that kids cannot sit straight for a long time. So when I suggest my lesson plan for the 4 or 5 year olds, you have to think, if I'm reading a book, how long would that be? And if I have rotations, how can I do that with my assistant or assistants? How can you guys rotate with the students so they're having those, like they have movement, right? So they're all doing something. There that you have the small group, you have the whole group, and you have individual work going on, right? Number four, the classroom is decorated with children's original artwork, their own writing with invented spelling and stories dictated by children to teachers. So teachers become scribes and they write what the kids tell them to. Five is children learn numbers and the alphabet in the context of their everyday experiences. The natural world of plants and animals and meaningful activities like cooking, taking attendance, and serving snack provide the basis for learning activities. So we'll actually, the example I'm giving you guys is about life cycles. So it's going to be all about plants and about animals and about the living things, which is going to be really cool. We're going to talk about planting their own seeds. This is actually my daughter's. See, her little plant is already growing. It's super cool. So this is what we're going to talk about. And then number six, children work on projects and have long periods of time, at least 1 hour, to play and explore. Worksheets are used little, if at all. And then seven, children have an opportunity to play outside every day. Outdoor play is never sacrificed for more instructional time. So they need time to play. And you know, kids have a lot of energy. They need to be outside. Number eight, teachers read books to children individually or in small groups throughout the day, not just a group story time. So give them the opportunity to read independently, with a teacher, with a small group, with your assistant or assistants, before pickup, in the beginning of the day. If there's downtime, let them read, right? 9, curriculum is adapted for those who are ahead as well as those who need additional help. Teachers recognize that children's different background and experiences mean that they do not learn the same things at the same time in the same way. I think number 9 is like super important. 10, children and their parents look forward to school. Parents feel secure about sending their child to the program. Children are happy to attend and they do not cry regularly or complain about feeling sick. So, you know, when kids are feeling great about coming to school because they're excited and their parents are excited and nobody is actually, you know, dragging coming to school. You know, of course, there's a couple, you know, exceptions here and there, but for the most part, it should be a good experience. All right. Now, over here we have this document. It's called Learning Outcomes for Infants, Toddlers, and Preschoolers. So to create my my lesson plan, I used the Head Start early learning goals. And I did that because, number one, for the most part, I feel like those goals are very general, and they're mostly national, and they are very suitable for most kids, you know, for the age of like the infants and toddlers and the preschoolers. And I decided to use those. Now you can, of course, make a decision to use different standards to assess your students and create curriculum based on those. What I used is what I have on the screen right now. So this is the way they organize their domains. They have in blue over here, they have approach to learning. And so basically it's kind of like they're just the kids' dispositions to learn and be in school and be ready to receive the information and be there with their peers. The second one is the pink, social and emotional development. So it would address all those behaviors for both infant toddler domains and then the preschoolers. Now then we go to language and literacy, and then there's three domains actually two, but language and communication, and then for preschool there is language communication and literacy. Then cognition, which is the thinking, right? And then for preschool, they also talk about mathematics and scientific reasoning. After that, there is the perceptual, motor, and physical development, which is all about, you know, the body, the movement of the body, how, you know, they walk, how kids should be walking and moving and doing their all their motor and physical, you know, how that their development should be at that age. All right, so those are the main domains. So I want to share that with you. All right, I actually have the document for you on Canvas. All right, and it will look like this, and I'll show you in a little bit where to find it. It says Head Start. And so when I was going through, I picked the preschool ones because I did for the 4 or 5-year-olds and up. So I highlighted, you can see goal preschool, ATL, approach to learning, number 1, see? Children will manage emotions and follow classroom rules and routines. So I created this unit for my daughter. So I'll have several examples of her doing the learning for you. I even have videos that you will watch. So you can see that I highlighted those parts. You don't need to have a printer to be able to do your planning. You can actually access this file on PDF and copy paste with your mouse and put that into your blank lesson plan to create your own, right, for your assignment. So let's see. All right, but don't get alarmed. We'll go through it together. Okay, so for a little bit more for you to think about, grab your pen and your paper. Answer these questions on a piece of paper or notebook. What inspires your teaching? And what materials or curriculum do you use to teach your students? And what is missing? What would you like to improve on? So go ahead and write down something that inspires your teaching. And what materials or curriculum do you use to teach your students? It would be nice if you could share it in one of our discussion boards on discussion threads on Canvas, or be ready to share next time that we meet would be really good. So what are the cool things you've been doing? Because I know you know a lot, so I would love to build on that. Right, if you need, go ahead and pause the video right now and write the answers down. You can write it in Spanish or you can write it in English. All right. Okay, now that you finished answering the questions, I have a little bit of answers for you. What is developmentally appropriate practice? It is based on what is currently known and what we know about children, is what we're going to develop as curriculum, right? So this is DAP, developmentally appropriate practice. It is a framework, it is a philosophy, and it is an approach to working with young children. It includes assessment methods, and it finds the correct balance between professionals' knowledge and parental and community expectations. That is what developmentally appropriate practice is. So it's based on what we know about kids. It is a framework or a philosophy, if you want to call that, or an approach. It includes assessment, and it also has a good balance between parents' knowledge, professionals' knowledge, so the educators' knowledge, and community expectations. So this is what DAP means, developmentally appropriate practice. Write that down. All right, I would do that on your piece of paper. If you need, go ahead and pause your video right now and take some notes. All right, the PowerPoint will be also on Canvas for you as reference if you need to go back and look at that, okay? All right. Okay, so components of DAP, developmentally appropriate practice. What is known about the child development and learning? So the components are those. So what we know about development and what we know about learning. So those are the components. Number two, it is responsive to individual variation. So we know that kids learn differently, so we're gonna have to differentiate. And three, it also takes into consideration what we know about their social and cultural contexts in which they live. So it's really cool because if students come from different language backgrounds or cultural backgrounds, developmentally appropriate practice will address those differences, which is really great. You should be thinking about those things. How can you differentiate for your students that come from different language and cultural backgrounds, right? It's a big deal. Now, other principles of development, all right? We have here all the domains of development and learning. So physical, social, emotional, and cognitive are important, and they're related, they're interrelated. So if you're doing development, the DAP, the developmentally appropriate practice, you are thinking about all those areas to be connected. Okay, so that's why when I'm talking about my lesson planning today, and I'm going to show you how to do it, how I did mine, I want you to be thinking about how all those components come together. For example, during sensory play, how can you do literacy with sensory all at the same time? Okay. Number two, many aspects of children's learning and development follow well-documented sequences with later abilities, skills, and knowledge building on those already acquired. So you're going to build on what they know, right? You need to see the student as somebody that comes with knowledge. And all the knowledge that they come with becomes an asset for learning. So you're going to be taking the funds of knowledge of that student as an asset for new learning. All right, number 3, the development and learning proceed at varying rates from child to child. So everyone learns differently, right? That's basically what that is. And then development and learning result from a dynamic and continuous interaction of biological maturation and experience. So kids, they grow and they mature at different rates. So learning and development happen like that too, right? Everyone is different. 5, early experiences have profound effects on their learning. So you have a very important role in children's lives, because what you give them is what they're going to remember, is what it will shape their lives forever a lot of times, right? And then number 6, development proceeds toward greater complexity, self-regulation, and symbolic or representational capacities. So you're learning, and as you learn, you're learning more, everything's getting more complex. You're learning to self-regulate, like you're learning to deal with your emotions. You're learning to develop your symbolic, the symbolic meaning of things. You're learning to learn about like abstract knowledge in different ways. It gets more complex as you go. So if it's appropriate, the way you're teaching your students, this will all happen at the same time. So it's kind of interesting, and it's very good to see when you notice that the students are like getting it, and then they're maturing, and you notice that huge development, leap. Like you're like, wow, that student is really learning. It's like really like, it's visible, right? That's happening. Like that student in this picture, for example, you can see that the little one in the middle is like, me, I wanna, answer the question. You probably have a student in your class that always wants to answer, or when you see that face, like, oh, I get it, like, oh, I know, right? And they feel so excited about it, and they just blossom. It's wonderful. All right. And then to kind of wrap up, there's a couple more. Children develop best when they have secure, consistent relationships with adults that will provide them with positive relationships, right? So be that a positive adult in their lives. You're sometimes the only adult that they have to build a relationship with. Number 8, development and learning occur in and are influenced by multiple social and cultural contexts. And 9, always mentally active in seeking to understand the world around them, children learn in a variety of ways. A wide range of teaching strategies and interactions are effective in supporting all these kinds of learning. So have tons of strategies in your backpack. Just start getting all the strategies out of your backpack, because you all learn differently. And the picture on the left on your screen is an example of how kids have different ways of learning. Some kids are more visual, they learn, with pictures. Other kids are gonna be more musical, they will learn with a song. Other kids are gonna learn with movement, with their body, and so on and so forth. So you have to try to blend those teaching strategies and styles to meet your students' needs. All right. And then play is an important vehicle for developing self-regulation. Play all day. Have them be excited about learning, because if they feel that they're playing, they will be excited. And they'll be, you'll be promoting language without them even knowing that they're learning language, right? And then social competence, they're learning to work with each other, which is really great. For example, I have this box right here of pictures. They can, like, for example, they can play, they can sort images, they can talk to each other. They're learning about the vocabulary for the unit. They don't even know they're being social, that they're developing their language. They think they're playing a game. So it's all you want, right? Number 11, development and learning advance when children are challenged to achieve at a level just beyond their current mastery. In other words, just like this big picture that you have on your screen, it's the ZPD, the Zone of Proximal Development. You can call that, so if you think about something that like is too easy for them to do, they're not gonna be excited. But if it's too hard for them, it will be out of reach. But if you give them just enough challenge, a little bit out of their comfort zone, they will be able to do it. So give them what they know, a little bit more of a challenge, and they'll get to it, right? They'll get there. So just so as it says, children are challenged to achieve at a level just beyond their current mastery. That's what it says right here on number 11. And then 12, children's experiences shape their motivation and approaches to learning, such as persistence, initiative, and flexibility. And so in turn, these dispositions and behaviors affect their learning and development. So if you motivate kids to learn, to be flexible, to be positive, to be excited, they will feel confident about themselves as learners, and they will be ready for all their learning experiences from that point on. So just make sure that you provide them with those opportunities. All right. Okay. So if you have any questions right now, I know that you probably have a question for me. Write that question down on your paper, and you can email me about it, or your instructor. If you have a question about the DAP, the Developmentally Appropriate Practice, okay, the 12 principles, basic principles of the DAP. All right. All right. Are you ready for some lesson planning? I am ready for lesson planning. I'm ready to share what I know because I love it. I spent a lot of time putting the lesson plans together for you, and I think you're gonna love it. I think so. So this on your screen is an example of a 4th grade lesson plan that I did in 2015-16. You can see here on top. That was week 8 of 4th grade. And you can see I had days of the week on the left side, had the schedule right here, and we were reading Percy Jackson, The Lightning Bolt, Lightning Thief right there. We had dictation, we had language work right there, we had writing, we had the standards right there. We had literacy lab, we had a reading book, like a reading activity. We had social studies. You can see everything that we were doing that day, that week. So there's like, you can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is for 4th grade, right? So for this class, we cover from birth all the way to 3rd grade, right? So I'm gonna be modeling preschool, right? So I focused on 4-year-olds because I thought, well, it's kind of like a middle ground between like toddler age and preschool. It gives us a little bit of, range right there. But if you would like more examples of, grade school, just let me know or let your instructor know. And, we can upload some examples for you for like, 4th grade, 2nd grade, and some other different grades for you to look at, all right? Now, one thing that I noticed is for me, as a visual learner, I really like the images. They help me a lot. Without the images, it wouldn't be as fun to look at this lesson plan and be like, oh yeah, look at that. They did this input chart on Tuesday in social studies right here. Oh, look at that. It was about the Native Americans. Look at that. Well, if you don't have that, you don't even remember what you're supposed to do. So I like to have visuals to help myself know what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So that's just a tip for you, right? So the question, if you're feeling like this lady, how do I create curriculum? You're like, Angela, you're crazy. You want me to do what? Create curriculum and or what? Or do I have to buy one? Do I buy a box of books? Is that curriculum? I'm like, no, it's not curriculum. Box of books is just a box of books. Curriculum is everything that comes with it, the lesson planning, the standards, and all that. But then what do I do? So how should we start? What are things to consider when choosing what to teach? What do I teach my kids? How do I even start, right? So I'll tell you what I do. So what does curriculum planning look like, right? Okay, so number one, do I pick a layout for planning? Yes. So in fourth grade, I had that layout. It looked like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like from top to bottom. Then I had my days that way. Now the template I have for you on Canvas is a little bit different because it's a different grade, different, layout. Now, if you want to do a different layout, I'm cool with that, as long as it works for you and as long as it has tons of the components that make sense for lesson planning. Make sure that you have it very enhanced and beautiful and amazing. All right. Second question, should I plan with a team? Yes. If you work in a school that you have a team. If you have a team, work with a team. Ideally, you should always work with a team. For this class, for your assignments, you can work individually, so with yourself, right? Or you can pick a partner to work with. You can message on Canvas. You can message on Canvas if you have somebody that you can work with, or you can just simply work on your own. But if you're hoping to use the 4 weeks of lesson plans that you're going to create, like the unit that you're going to create for your school, for your everyday, I would hope that you can get a team going. Get it going, get a team together, get your husband involved, your best friend. Like, I don't mind. I don't care who works with you, as long as you do something that works for you, that is relevant, that is great, because that's important. Third question, how do I choose my themes or topics? Well, we're going to talk about that in a bit. How did I choose my topics for my whole entire year? And how did I decide that we were going to talk about life cycles? And how did I end up with my tub of books about life cycles, right? We'll talk about that in a second. How do I choose my themes or topics? How do you settle on your scope and sequence? Number 4, do I need standards? Yeah, I think so, because how do you teach without goals? They need goals for learning. What is your goal for the student or students that you're teaching, right? The next question is, how do I involve the parents? Do you have a parent in that is part of your school that is always involved? What could they be doing? How could they help? Could they bring something interesting to the table to help you create curriculum? Now, the next one is, if I'm creating curriculum for my school, do I get paid for all this work? Well, it's something that you could talk to your director about. Maybe you could put together a little team and, maybe on a Saturday afternoon or after hours before school, or maybe your school already has a rotation that, during the day, maybe you have planning time and you're already getting paid to do planning. Planning should be something that is embedded. All teachers should have time for planning because planning is essential. How do you do good teaching without planning? So all directors should be listening to me right now, right? All teachers, I'm gonna say that again, all teachers should have planning time, even in the early learning context, not only like in elementary school or middle school or high school, like the little students also deserve their teachers to have planning time, right? Don't you agree? Yeah, I think so. And then the next question is, what do I teach? Okay, so then that goes back to standards. That goes back to what approach am I gonna use, right? And then how do I assess student learning? How do I know they learned? So that takes me to the next part. Next part is assessment and portfolio. So if you know what students are gonna learn, you can think about, okay, this is what it's gonna look like. And then you can plan backwards. You were like, okay, this is what I want them to be doing. So then that way I'm gonna plan in the opposite way, backwards, right? So this is a picture of student portfolios, for example. Would you maybe be making binders for them or folders? Kind of in the middle of our quarter, I would like you to have an example of a portfolio. I don't want you to create a portfolio of a student because you might not have access to a student right now. So maybe something you can find online of an example of a preschool portfolio. What would that look like to collect evidence about a student's learning, right? Do you have dividers? What do you include? Artwork? What do you do, right? The next one is, do you have data? Do you have assessment data for your students? Can they count? Do they know their letters? Are you like, see right here, this picture on top left? Do they know their, letters, their numbers? Well, when you meet with the parents for their conferences, can you tell them what they know, what the kids know, right? Do they know their shapes, sight words? Do they know their numbers? Do they know lowercase? Do they know uppercase? Do they know, what do they know? Are they good friends? Do they know how to share, like the social emotional learning, and so on and so forth? Okay. Now, are you doing parent conferences? Okay, so I would suggest twice a year to have parent-teacher conferences. It's so important to connect with the parents. Twice a year or more is my suggestion. It's a time that you can talk about children in all areas of development, review their student portfolio, set goals for learning, and it can be teacher-led or student-led. This picture, for example, is the student showing what they've learned and their goals. So she's presenting about what her goals are for learning, so that the teacher at that point is just observing, and the parents know that the student has that internalized already. The student knows what is expected as far as learning. So it's a really good way to do it. I did that several times, several years in a row, and it's the most empowering opportunity for students. I really, really enjoyed that. And the students too, and the families too. Now, multicultural students that speak other languages, it's even better because the student becomes a translator. They can translate for their parents, and you just sit there and you participate, and it's wonderful. It's awesome. So just something to think about. All right, and now things to consider before I give you my example is the curriculum, is it based on current research? When you're planning your curriculum, is it based on research? Is it current? Is it current, like, is it state, national standards? Is it based on the Common Core? Let's say it's kindergarten on up. Is it aligned with the kindergarten curriculum? Let's say you're doing preschool. Are you thinking about what they need to know for kinder? So that's kind of something to think about. Second bullet, is it theme-based? With hands-on activities? Are you considering teacher-led and student-led activities in all areas, like literacy and language, math, science, creative arts, fine motor and gross motor skills, social emotional, social studies, and more? So if you are creating a theme-based curriculum, which is the most common for preschool, please don't forget any of the areas, okay? Make sure that you are integrating everything so it's developmentally appropriate. like we just mentioned before in the beginning of this. The next one is, does it follow a different approach? Does your curriculum follow a different approach? For example, is it Montessori? Is it Waldorf? Is it Reggio Emilia? Right? We're going to have the groups presenting about that during class 4. Now, the next bullet says, is it emergent curriculum? You're like, what? So is it child initiated? Teacher as facilitator, just documenting what's happening in the classroom after it happened. So if you're in a school that is doing emergent curriculum, like there's no planning, you just do what the kids want to do, and then you document it later, that's what we call emergent curriculum. And that's also in our book. We're going to be exploring that later. Then there's a picture on the screen for you to document. But so those are things to consider for your curriculum. All right. Now for your standards. So I'm going to talk about standards. I have kindergarten, first, second, and third grade here. If you're going to plan for those grades, you need to go to this website right here that I put on the screen. If you click on it, see the little hand pops up when I move the mouse up like that. You go to the website. Let me see. I'll show you right there. Can you see it? Yeah. So it will show you language arts and math, and you can choose your grade. So you can download the standards right here as a document, or you can find it on any of those for kindergarten right here, all the way to high school, right? I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. If you are going to incorporate the science, which you should, and it's kinder, first, second, third grade on, you need to include the next generation science standards. And then there's also, of course, other resources for preschool science, which we should be doing more if we're not already doing that. So this is the link right here, Next Generation Science. It looks like this. You could search by grade, see right here? Let's say kinder, and you can search, and then it will show you all of the standards for kinder. For example, Earth and Human Activity, and it will show you all of the standards for science. So about natural resources, like living things need water, air, and resources from the land, and all that stuff. So you can really tailor your lessons towards all those standards that are here. See, it says by the end of grade 8, what they need to know, and it just explains all of those pieces for you. So it's really cool. Now I will go back to my PowerPoint. Let's see, hopefully you can still see it. There you go. And then for social studies, that was kind of interesting, because for kinder, first, second, third grade, you can go to the Washington ones at the bottom, and you will find the standards. There's a brand new document that was updated in September. And I know that because I teach the social studies class for the bachelors. And it's really interesting because they're brand new now. So if you click on that link, you go there, right? Now the top ones are for early childhood. So if you click on these, you would see there's this nice website. It talks about why we teach social studies to early learners. And it's fascinating to me to read this page, because it's talking about early childhood experiences, how we tailor their learning to, like to becoming like a citizen of the world, and how that affects like the human relations and interactions in everyday life, and all that. It's really great that they are thinking about those things. So we need to be teaching our students to become citizens of the world and understand where they live, and so important. Now they gave us 2 links that I actually added to the PowerPoint, and you can see it down here. Now look right here, the Florida state. Now this website is like awesome, And then the one at the bottom is the one from Illinois. They're both awesome. The one from Illinois is a PDF, but it also has correlations to the kindergarten. It's preschool standards, early learning, but it's like has a kinder correlations, like where they're learning this because in kindergarten they're gonna learn that. So it's kind of cool to see how they like connected everything, all like the things together. Now I'm gonna show you. So if I'm gonna go to the PowerPoint here so you know it's here. It's also on Canvas for you. Now look right here. Florida Learning, it's like my favorite. I'm like obsessed with it. It's so awesome. I wish Washington had the same, but you know what? Since we don't have anything like this, I say we can use it. It's up to you and your program director to decide what you guys are gonna teach, but it's pretty similar goals for kids. There's not a lot of changes, but it's so well organized, you're gonna love it. So if you click on, for example, can you see my screen? I hope you do. For example, if you go to like social studies, I'll click social studies right here. So it pops up right there. Then you click the age you wanna look at. So if I wanna do like I did 4 years old to kindergarten, and you go down here, it will show me the components. Now look, there's culture, individual development and identity, individuals and groups, spaces, places, and environments, time, continuity, and change, which would be kind of like a connection to the unit I'm going to talk about like the plants and the life cycles that can have like a social studies connection, economics and resources, technology and the world. So if you click on this, on the arrows, look, it has awesome little like explanation, explore culture, cultural attributes. So, and then if you go here, you click on it, on the little eye, it has like what children may do, what you may do, what the families may do. Like for example, encourage children to listen to classmates' experiences and stories, or during the morning meeting, circle time or whole group will share different styles of music. And some of them have like videos for you to watch, or home museum, super cool homeschool connection. So I love this. So if you go back to standards, you can do that for anything. So you can go to like language and literacy, shows up on top. You click on the age you want to see, and it pops up down here. And you can see listening, speaking, vocab, sentences and structure, conversation. Like let's see, you want to do emergent writing. You don't know what they need to do at the age of 4. See if your students are learning right. So begins to show motivation to engage in written expression. So then benchmark A, intentionally uses scribbles and writing to convey meaning. Signing the artwork, labeling, creating lists, or benchmark C, which I'm gonna be using in my lesson plan, writes their own name, not necessarily full correct spelling, but some of the letters. So you would just like see, you can copy paste that. And look at that, there's a little video for you. See right here, the eye or the video, you can click on it and it will show you like what kids can do, families can do. And that's some of the ideas that I put on the lesson plan for you to look at. And then you can click on this and you can watch the video. Look, I had to actually sign in. So you have to have an account. So you can just like it's a free account. And then you can watch it. Look at that.
That is a very nice cheetah dress, yeah. You find your name, Brianne? Yes, okay.
The sign-in is a great activity for the children because they see moms coming in and signing in the morning, and so they always want to have a part in that. So they have a special table that they can sign their names.
Thank you, Brianne.
They are able to identify their names.
All right, it's Harmony's turn. Can you find your name, Harmony?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're able to follow print, so they are able to copy. It doesn't have to be exactly like it is on there. They're just encouraged to try.
Can you spell it for me, Harmony?
Harmony.
Great.
Okay, Jaden and Jaden.
There are two Jadens. Which one are you? How can you tell? Because it has an N, and the N is for your last name. So Jaden, which one are you? This is Jaden N. Where's yours? Where's Jaden Z? Yes, all right.
You will see over a span of time that what was squiggles before begins to turn into letters, and the child is able to eventually write their name.
So they have special connections to all those standards and examples of things that you can watch to enhance your understanding about, you know, the standards that you're assessing or teaching to in the classroom. So it's awesome, right? So this is like, those are social studies, but they have art, they have literacy, they have math, they have science. It's awesome. So I totally recommend that site, and I'll show you how I did that today. So those are some of them, and then there's another one for learning standards right here that you can utilize if you want, or if you have a different document, go for it. Let me know what you're using, and maybe your school already uses something different. You have different standards that you've been following depending on what you're supposed to be doing. So I am open as long as you know what students are supposed to be doing as far as goals. So that's all that I need to know. Now, going back to what I talked about earlier, the key to curriculum planning, what is curriculum planning? What's curriculum development is planning with the end in mind. What is it that the students are learning? So your backwards planning. Backwards planning or backwards design is when you are planning with the end in mind. So number one, you identify desired results. What are the big ideas and skills that students need to know by the end of your month or the period of time? Sometimes I've noticed that teachers, especially in preschool, their units are like 1 to 2 weeks long, but I feel like sometimes students don't have enough time to really acquire in depth the content knowledge and the language knowledge that they need in order to master the skills. So my professional suggestion would be to have at least 3 to 4 weeks for each of your units so that they are meaningful and that they are that the students can master the content, especially for students that speak other languages, the dual language learners that they call the DLLs or English language learners. So they have enough time to process the language, the new vocab. They have time to translate in their head. They have time to process that whole knowledge. And that you as a teacher, you have time to prepare. You have time to display their work. You have time to communicate with parents. You don't have to write a new newsletter every single day or every single week. So the parents know what's happening at that period of time, and they have time to engage with their child at home. That's my professional suggestion. So just kind of think about that. 2, so you know the big ideas and skills that they need to learn. 2, you're going to determine acceptable evidence. So what is their culminating assessment task? So for example, the life cycles unit, they are planting their seed. It's germinated and it's growing. Now we're also going to explore the life cycle of a butterfly. So our culminating task would be releasing the butterflies after they have gone through the life cycle, their life cycle. So after they have gone through their whole process of becoming butterfly. That could be that. It could also be a parent event about life cycles. Might be a reader's theater of the kids trying to present the information. It could be a science fair. I mean, you can create whatever you want, but what is the culminating task that you are doing to assess the learners? 3, plan learning experiences and instruction. So what are the learning events within your unit? that will be relevant to students' learning. All right? So think about that. The next part. This is where I am going to show you my unit, all right? So the unit that I created is called the Life Cycles Unit. The objectives are, so students will learn about living organisms and their life cycles. Students will compare and contrast plants and animals and their life cycles. Describe what makes different plants and animals similar and different. Tell what plants and animals need to survive, which is kind of cool because kids, when they're 5 years old, they don't know, right? It's so important for them to understand. So understand what that plants and animals go through changes as they grow older, all right? Curriculum framing questions that I have at the bottom. How do living organisms change over time? Unit questions. What are the differences and similarities between seeds and eggs? So if I'm comparing plants and animals, so what are the differences and similarities between the seeds and eggs? Because they're at the beginning of life. How do caterpillars, mealworms, and seeds change as they grow older? What is a life cycle? How are insects similar? What life stages do animals and plants go through? Right, so the picture you see on top is a picture of the images that I had for my daughter. I call this the picture file card. So usually I have this in a bag, and I had pictures of gardens, and I had pictures of kids eating the food that they planted. I had pictures of different things about plants, different plants in their life cycles, like for example, the sunflowers. I had pictures of the sunflower life cycle. I had chicken life cycle. I had the frog life cycle. So most of the time, it's better not to have any words on them, but those are the images that I was able to find online. Then like sequence of events. And I was able to also find an example of a game that I'm gonna get for you that I played with my daughter. She's my example, and it's like sequencing of events: first, next, then, after that, and last. And then we have pieces of when things happened, so that she had to put in order of when those things happened during the life cycle. Now, when you're teaching your students, you want to do that maybe during an individual time. When your assistant or assistants are working with 1 or 2 kids, do it in a small group. You wouldn't do that as a whole group. So it's a good time to connect with the student and know what they're able to do. It's also great because you can teach them words for sequencing, and that will transfer to reading and writing, for retelling a story, for retelling sequence of events during a specific event in their lives, like something that was very meaningful to them. You're giving them the language that they need to develop their literacy skills and their communication. So you're doing science and you're doing social studies, but you're also doing language and you're doing literacy all together. You're teaching them the letters, you're teaching them all of it all at the same time. So be thinking about that. Okay, so my unit started with those learning objectives. This is my backwards planning. This is what I want them to learn. Okay, now I have my scope and sequence. How does this unit fit within your year of instruction is my next question. So I have right here an example of how I would start my year. Okay, so when you go to Canvas, you will see this document. All right, so I have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. I have the calendar on the left side. I have the units, all about me, multicultural fairy tales and mini stories, culture, celebrations, and folklore. So this would be let's see, a time when now I'm gonna go to, I'm gonna share my screen again, and I'm gonna share my desktop. Okay, hopefully you can see it. I'm going to share on Canvas right here. Let's see. Hopefully you can see it. All right, so I have right there, I have our Canvas. I'm going to go to, there is math curriculum planning. I would love you to look at this document sometime. If you teach, let's say, math, it would be really great for you to look at how it would go for you to teach mathematics. And it would show you how to go about teaching each of the concepts of a unit. See right here? And the lesson and the language objectives and the books you're using as what piece of literature you're connecting to. But for the sake of our examples, for my unit, for the life cycles unit, I have it right here, 4 to 5-year-old curriculum mapping. I have the example here. I'm gonna open this Excel document. Let's see, open. We'll make sure that I am sharing my screen. All right. So if you look at this, I started my year with All About Me and My Family, Multicultural Fairy Tales and Many Stories. And we talked about cultures and celebrations because it was kind of Christmas time right here. November, December, see right here the months. And I want to talk about different celebrations of like not only Christmas, but Hanukkah and other, Kwanzaa, other types of celebrations around the world and other cultures. It's a great time to do that. And then in January, it kind of gets kind of quiet. You can talk about animals around the world and talk about animals that live in the winter weather and all different habitats. And then around March, you can talk about communities, people that live around the world, and then habitats around the world. You can still talk about animals, but you can talk about people and different cities. You can also talk about different means of transportation, like bike. You can talk about different ways that people, go about moving around. And then you also talk about jobs and communities in a sense of like the workers and like a firefighter, the community helpers. You could kind of embed all those themes there if you wanted to. Now I decided to do life cycles because it's springtime. It's very good for us to be bringing that theme up because of course it's the perfect weather for plants. So right now it just makes sense to be doing that at this time. And then after that, Earth and Universe, talk about the cycle of water, Earth systems and things that happen here, the universe, talk about planets. And then in the summer, in case your preschool or early learning center does not close, in the summer you can do reduce, reuse, recycle. And you could also talk, like you can make for music and movement, you could do, for music, you could do like maracas and musical instruments with, like bottles, recycled bottles. You could do several toys. You can make several toys with those recycled materials. You can get so creative, and there's so many awesome books about the theme. And it's about 3 months. You can also talk about like, water sports. I mean, you can do different themes there. But I wrote that you can be creative. But this is kind of what I wanted to do. I chose those topics because most of all topics, doesn't matter what grade you teach, everything kind of revolves around those topics, no matter what. Those are kind of universal topics. But if you have another topic that you really love, please tell me. I would love to include that. And of course, you don't have to have the whole school doing All About Me and My Family in September, but it just makes sense because if it's the beginning of school year, you want to know the students, your new students, you want to know about their families, you want to get to meet everyone and make those connections. So it's always a good time to get to know students and develop your first impressions and develop your first lessons with them. And so that's why I always do About Me and My Family. It doesn't matter how old they are. Even a 4th grader or 5th grader can talk about themselves and their family. You can work on writing. You can work on writing their names if they're little. You can work on writing a narrative piece of writing about their own lives if they're older. I mean, you can work on many different things. You can do a self-portrait if they're tiny, even if it's like, okay, give them a mirror, they can draw themselves. I mean, you can do so many different things with this theme. So this is my thinking for my unit in my school year for my 4-year-old. All right, so I'll go back to my PowerPoint. So here I have my theme. So I have the introduction of the year, first week, get to know the kids, transition to family, then multicultural fairy tales and many other stories, super fun. Then culture, celebrations and folklore around the world, the animals, communities and habitats and life cycles, earth and universe, and then reduce, reuse, recycle, and then other topics for summer. Now, the question is, how do you create your first week of lessons for your first assignment? So you're going to either work individually or with a partner. So right now I'm gonna walk you through the template. What does it look like to actually type your stuff in? I'm gonna show you my example and you're gonna do something similar, all right? All right, let's start with examples. So I worked on this file, all right? And on your canvas, it's this red one on the screen. It says Head Start Learning Standards Framework. And actually, you know what I did? I actually did the wrong one. It's actually what says short version. Forgive me, it's the one on top. It says short version. This is the one you want because this is the short version. You can do the framework, it's just long. Do the one on top, the short version. It's the one I used. So I would just copy and paste into my document, okay? On your canvas, you can also find the Florida Learning Centers, that cool website that I showed you. Awesome stuff. You can also copy paste. You can see the videos and so on and so forth. You can also, there's the Washington ones. The document is in Spanish and English. You just have to find the goals and learning targets that fit your program. The ones I like the most, the short version of the Head Start, which is this one, and I love the Florida Learning Standards. Love them. So this is what I recommend. Now, my curriculum mapping is right here. Feel free to use the document for yourself to create your own for your school year. I want to see you working on that and get something beautiful done for your work, for your school, for where you work. And then you have the examples right here. You have it as a PDF, you have it as a Word document, as you can copy paste, but you have the blank template right down there for your use as well. All right, so I start my day with a question of the day in the circle time routine. Duh, right? You're like gonna be like, Angela, this is like, everybody knows that. Well, is it that obvious? Sometimes it's like, how do I even start my day? There's so many ways to go about your day, but I think having the question of the day is so important because it sets the tone for the whole entire learning. So on the left side, you can see circle time, question of the day, calendar, days of the week, and the weather, the morning meeting, you may call the morning meeting, show and tell, homeschool connection, whatever you want to call, schedule for the day, and the learning goals. So you're going to do all those things. So Monday, we start with what is a life cycle? Talk about the calendar, what day is today, what day of the week, sing the songs, what's the weather like, introduce the unit. Today we're going to learn, so we're going to start a new unit this month. I sent your parents this letter about life cycles. We're going to learn about life cycles. Have you heard about life cycles before? So our question for this unit is, what is a life cycle? So you can basically do that. You can write a question on a piece of paper and do that, okay? I have something similar, that's why I was looking that way, on my wall, on those colored papers right there. And the orange one at the bottom, it says, what is a life cycle? The one on top says, do all living things have life cycles? And the pink says, how does a plant begin? Those are the things that I had on the papers right there. There will be a picture on the PowerPoint in a second. Then go over introduce the unit, go over the schedule for the day, have a visual schedule for them so they know what's gonna be like. Then you have go over social emotional development goals. So, talk about like, what are we gonna be doing, as a group? Like, what are we working on? We're working on collaboration, cooperation, we're working on sharing, we're working on teamwork. I don't have yellow paper here, so I don't have that poster, but you would say something like teamwork, just like this poster that you see on every day. You would review that every day, what it looks like to show teamwork. You would be sharing with each other, and so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of things that you can teach the kids about their behavior. So right in the morning when you're starting your unit, for every unit, I would choose a different word. For example, for this unit, I'm saying teamwork. For next unit, I would say cooperation. For the next unit, I would say respect. So I would choose a word that would go with their social emotional learning. That makes sense. And that would be every day for my circle time, something that I would bring up every day. Are we showing, teamwork, respect? What does it look like? What does it sound like? If I closed my eyes, what would it sound like if somebody came in here, right? That is a glad strategy that I'm sharing with you, all right? If you look at Tuesday, what is a life cycle? I still have the same question. They might not know the answer yet. I do the calendar again. I will tell them that we're gonna be positive and cooperate, go over the teamwork, that's our goal. And then you're gonna start reading the book, from Seed to Plant, just a few of the pages and get started. On Wednesday, you're going to have some of the images of of your picture file cards, the things that I showed you guys right here, and have them talk about them, have them share the carpet, just kind of like to start conversation. Sometimes kids are late, sometimes they were not there for whatever reason. Always bring that back and they will have different things to say every time. On Thursday, continue reading the book. The question there is different. How does a plant begin? Is the question. And then tell the kids that tomorrow they'll have show and tell. They have to bring a living thing. So an object that represents a living thing. For example, a toy tiger, like a little figure that would represent something that would be a living organism. So of course you're telling the parents on Monday, but the kids, you remind them on Thursday before the day of. And then on Friday, you're gonna have circle time, the show and tell. You're gonna review the poster with the teamwork and all that, and do that with the students. All right. Now, the guiding questions, as I said, do all living things have life cycles? How does a plant begin? What is a life cycle? And there might be other questions that your students will have. You can change those questions as you go. Don't feel like you have to have those specific questions, okay? It's not written on like stone, okay? Now, the schedule for the day and learning goals. Tell them what the schedule is gonna be like. You might not have music that day, or there might be some change for that day. You might have a guest speaker, you might have something else going on. So, all right. All right, so I have here, the next part is really important, is the behavior expectations for your unit. Of course, it's not gonna be new for each unit, but it's important to have that laid out throughout your planning. So you have the teamwork, so sharing, being nice, working together, and being quiet. What it sounds like, saying please and thank you, I'm sorry, can you help me? Those are things that you can have on your yellow input chart. Yellow would be a good color because it's different from all the other posters around the room, or all your other input charts. It would be for behavior purposes. So I recommend that you have it in yellow for that reason. In the middle, you can see that there's like your behavior throughout the day. Great job, ready to learn, think about it, make better choices, slow down, and uh-oh, we're gonna call home or something. And so you just have to have that. And then the little clothespins are gonna be with your students' names. You can move it up and down, keep them accountable. On the right side, you see there's a treasure box. This is an example of something I use with my daughter at home. We have the Johnson bucks, right? I walk around the house when we're doing school. I'll show you. I have, got all tangled up here. I wear this pouch with all the bucks. Oh, that's actually hers. Mine is the red one, sorry. I have a red one. Mine is full of bucks. And so we made a little bucks. This is a PBIS strategy. We put her face on the money, and then we use this to count once. So we make 10, we make 5, we make 10s. We use that for math strategies. And then for her to earn from the treasure box something that she, like a toy or incentive, a reward for good behavior. And then she keeps hers in her little wallet that she wears. So for your students, you can create something like that, or a little wallet of sorts. But it's really cool. So you keep your students excited and engaged about learning, right? All right, so you gotta have that in your lesson plan somehow, and I'll show you how I added that to mine. Now you're gonna start building background knowledge about the content. So I have a box of books right here, and I'm gonna show you. Let me kind of move my stuff around a little. So in my box, I have several books. I have plants. I have the frog's life cycle. I have seed to plant, which is the one that I talked about. The tadpole to frog. I have the sunflower's life cycle. I have the butterflies. So I am gonna go through plant and animals life cycles. And then of course, the famous, the very hungry caterpillar, because you need to have a good mix for your unit of fiction and nonfiction books, so that your students start learning about, oh, this book here is a nonfiction book. It has a table of contents. Oh, it has an author, it has a cover, it has a back cover. And oh, this one has a glossary. Ooh, this one doesn't have a glossary or a table of contents. Oh, it's fiction. So they start noticing that it's a different kind of book. It starts early when they start learning about those things. It can be babies and they start learning about those things. It's part of one of the goals of learning that you're gonna find out that it's part of being a preschooler. Okay, so you have to start pointing that out. So when you build your unit, find enough books for both fiction and nonfiction. And I'll show you what I did on my in my unit. Okay, I'll put my books down here. So right here is an example of my box. And then here is my daughter. To build background knowledge, I showed her pictures of the life cycles and the plants. And I was having her tell me what she saw. So I said, what do you see? And that's what she gave me. So I'll play this video for you. You can see her Johnson buck right here on the side. She had already earned some, and I had made initially a little wallet with paper. Okay, ready?
See. A spider, a larva.
A larva.
A caterpillar. And a ladybug. Corn. A larva. A caterpillar. And a ladybug.
Oh, wow. What do you see here?
Chick. Rooster. Rooster, and chick.
Wow, that's amazing. All right.
I see a sunflower, a flower and a plant, and seeds.
Wow. What else? What else do you see?
Boots, a water can, a shovel, and glove, and red, and blue.
Wow, I'm going to put it down so I can see too. Wow, good job. One Johnson bug for you for being so well behaved.
Two?
You got two already. You want to put that in your wallet? Good job. How many do you have so far?
Two.
And wow, good job.
The tree.
The trees. What else do you see there?
Plants.
Plants. What about this next one? I'm gonna laminate those for you when you have them all together. What do you see?
Flowers at the park.
What about these?
Plants and flowers.
Perfect.
Leaves. And they turn into bubbles. And then they do the leaf, and they turn into a butterfly.
Wow.
Seeds.
And seeds.
These are plant flowers.
Great job. And then the next one. Ooh, this one is right here.
There's a flower, seeds, and
Excellent job, Julia. Good job. All right.
how about the kitty cat?
Oh, the kitty cat is for our schedule. I'm gonna change the. All right. Yes. So you can see how she was really excited to talk about all of the things that she saw, and so I had a mix of life cycle, images, and also plants and gardens and all those inspiring images. All right. So just kind of like bringing that background knowledge, things that she had seen. I didn't tell her what I saw. I asked her what she saw. And then I had chants going. I had this one chant for the first week. So the first days, I just had the paper blank, just like with the chant. And then after a few days, I processed by showing her where the words were. And I also talked about some of the academic vocabulary words. For example, the word moisture. As you can see, I wrote the word water on top. So we talked about the word moisture means water, and then we actually added pictures to the chant. So the chant goes like this: seeds here, seeds there, seeds everywhere. So we add gestures. Seeds need soil, seeds need moisture, seeds need sun, and then we'd go down like this: to grow, 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 grow. And then we would go up like that. Seeds here, seeds there, seeds everywhere, seeds. She had a blast singing that all the time, every day. She wanted to sing it again and again and again. And of course, she had the reward she had the bucks as her reward for singing and participating. And I think that's a really great thing because she was excited to learn. And then we talked about words that started with the same letter, for example, seeds and soil. So it was a great opportunity for me to point out spelling. Now you can see that I also underlined every time the word seeds was repeated in the chant. So it's highlighted, it's underlined 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times. So those are opportunities that are priceless because you are pointing out. It took me a minute to write that down, and I actually looked it up online. Somebody had already written that chant, and I had the opportunity to teach her the word seeds over and over again. So hopefully she is gonna be internalizing that, fast. All right. Okay, so then I did what we call the KWL chart. What do you know about life cycles? And what do you want to know about life cycles? And that was during the science/social studies part of the day that you're gonna see in your template that you're gonna start filling out. Now you're gonna, of course, decide on a unit that you want to teach, whatever topic you want to teach. So maybe you want to talk about Latino culture. I don't know what your unit is gonna be about. Maybe fairy tales, maybe, I don't know. You can come up with anything you want, all right? But think about a broad topic. But think about a topic that you could think about. What do you know about it? And what do you want to know about it? So on the left side was the first video when I asked her what she knew about life cycles. Watch. What do you know about life cycles? Let's see if you can earn a buck. What do you know about life cycles?
I know about like a kid, like watering the plants.
About
trees.
Watering the
The
plants.
trees. And the flowers. And the flowers. And flowers. Now do I earn a Johnson buck?
In a second, yeah, once we're done with this one, okay?
We're not going to read it?
We are. We're going to read the book. What else do you know about life cycles?
Don't know.
You don't know? Anything else? Think about it.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. Now let me get another color marker because Mommy forgot to use a different color marker. Do you think you can grab me my markers over there for Mommy? Then she did. And so we're going to continue on the other side.
To clap, 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 clap.
Okay, so what do you know? What do you want to know about life cycles?
To.
What do you want to know about life cycles?
Penguins?
So you want to know about penguins?
Yeah.
So, okay, so
Penguins attention. Penguin begin. Left the restless in ever seen a penguin attention. Penguins attention. Penguin begin. Left the restless in ever seen.
what else? What else do you want to know? What do you want to know about life cycles that you don't know about that you want to know?
Fish.
About fish.
Yeah. Fish.
What else?
Maybe cheetahs.
Sorry, you said maybe cheetahs. Yes, cheetahs. What else?
Maybe elephants.
Elephants, their life cycle.
No, lions.
Lions, you don't know the lion's life cycle? Okay. Lions and elephants, right? You said?
Lions and a little worm.
The worms?
And the baby worms. Here we
Perfect. Good job. You are going to earn a Johnson buck. Here we go. Here we go. Perfect. So this is the KWO chart, the inquiry chart for the GLAD. And so both sides need to be different colors. I should have used a different color, not black, for the left side. I should have used like red or green. But I forgot because we were in the middle of our day. And so I should have used a different color. But you're supposed to have two different colors. And then as you add, so you go back to it different days. When you have a lot of kids in the classroom, you have a lot of things written down. You're supposed to write verbatim. So when she said maybe cheetahs or maybe lions, I should have written maybe lions. But that's why I kind of stopped there. But that's okay. I was just demonstrating. I was trying to be spontaneous. But I just wanted to see what it looks like. So we're building background knowledge. She saw pictures the day before. Then we did that. We did the inquiry chart. What do you know? What do you want to know? And then we're like, you know, kind of building that knowledge, building that interest for that learning, which is the most important thing. Sometimes a good way also to build that background knowledge is to bring videos, a quick clip, you know, a YouTube, quick, you know, like minute or two, short video about the topic, or, you know, a dance, something like that. So you figure it out. So anything that captures their attention would be excellent.
What do you know about?
All right. So then this unit kept on going, and as you're gonna see on the paper, we actually ended up planting, you know, our seeds. And she had her picture on her vase. My husband and I had our own right here. So we have our vase. Our plant is a different one. I think ours is like a cosmos plant right there. Ours is different plant. So hers has germinated and is growing a lot more than ours. So we have it in different places. So now for the first week, it wasn't the goal for math to be measuring the plant, but for the following weeks of this unit, I'm making a math connection to measure and have a journal on how much the plant has grown. So you're gonna have that measurement in units, which is really awesome for kids. An idea is to have the parents bring the pots, and then maybe they can decorate the pots, they can paint the pots at home. It's kind of fun to have that connection. And then there's a picture of me, that's about 12 years ago, when I did that with the students that I taught at one of the preschools in Brazil. And we actually had a big planter. It was like a community garden. We didn't have individual pots, so we had a big one that we planted. So we planted vegetables. At the time we had carrots and cucumber. And then we ended up eating. We had cooking class with what we had planted. It was really, really cool. So something to think about for your culminating project, right? Now, after your circle time, my next thing on the planning is music and movement. So for this, I added the chant 2 days a week, and then 2 other days, I added a YouTube video. It's called "Can You Plant a Bean?" It's not a video, so you learn it with the video, and then you teach the kids. Really cool. And then when you're looking at the example, go ahead and watch it. It's cool. It's this lady dancing. Let's see if I can. You won't let me right now. Let's see. Right here. Let me show you. Oop. All right. Let's see if I can show you my my example. Here we go. That's what the lesson plan looks like. Let me see if I have this showing. There you go. Right here. I will show you what it looks like. Can you plant a bean for music and movement? It's silly, but it's fun.
Can you plant a bean? Watch it grow up big and green. Can you water the seed and pull out the weeds? Can you shine like the sun and pick pots one by one? Working is done, now let's eat that bean. Can you plant the bean? Watch it grow up big and green. Can you water the seed and pull out the weeds? Can you shine like the sun and pick pots one by one? Working is done, now let's eat that bean. Can you plant a bean? Watch it grow up big and green. Can you water the seed and pull out the weeds? Can you shine like the sun and pick pots one by one? Working is done, now let's eat that bean. Can you plant a bean? Watch it grow up big and green. Can you water the seed and pull out the weeds? Can you shine like the sun and pick pots one by one? Working is done, now let's eat that bean. Can you plant a bean? Watch it grow up big and green. Can you water the seed and pull out the weeds? Can you shine?
You get the idea, right? So it's kind of cool to give them that. It's great. So they are gonna love that. And I pulled that from our document. So children will demonstrate increasing control of large muscles for movement, navigation, and balance. That's their goal. And then for the chant, it was actively participating in a variety of individual and group musical activities. That was the goal for that. And then for Friday, for the first week, I have children will demonstrate increasing control of large muscles for movement, navigation, and balance. It's a pick a flower movement activity. When you're there looking at this, there is a cool connection. Let's see if I'm sharing, if you can see my screen. There you go. It's called Pick a Flower Spring Movement Game. You will need sticks, wooden sticks, and you need flower-looking piece of paper. And you're going to write words such as hop, run, walk, skip, and gallop. And then students will start, you can teach them those words, and those are the things they're gonna have to do, and they have to read those words. So you're gonna teach them the letters and what it says and what they have to do. So it's kind of a literacy movement activity, also with those flowers. So it's, I thought it was a good way to connect the literacy and the movement all together. All right. Okay, then make sure you can see my screen. Yes, you can. All right. And then the part that I love the most is the literacy part. So every day there are two big things. One, the book that you're reading to the class during literacy time. Of course, in between those activities, there's always like, you go outside, there's snack time, all those things. So don't sweat those things. You're gonna still follow your school schedule, okay? Those things are for you to have this is your curriculum planning. The schedule, you embed with that, okay? If you need to write, oh yeah, snack time, you can add a column there. If you wanted to have that ready for you to use, add that and turn it in like that. I added, so each day is a different book. One day is fiction, see right here? Next day is nonfiction. Fiction, so this one's fiction, then nonfiction. So I tried to kind of alternate here and there, here and there. Now, when you are, let me see if I can get out of this. When you are looking at your, the document that I posted, see right here, at the end of this document, you have all the pictures that I posted and all that. There is a list of books that I added for you that you should also have for yourself, because if you are having your school implement this unit for you and your teammates, you need to have a list of the titles and the cover and what kind of book it is so that they can purchase those books for you. Spanish titles, maybe you're gonna find them in Spanish and English, maybe it's a dual language program or bilingual program. Have those in both languages. So you add your unit information at the end of your planning for them. Okay, see? I added all those things for you to see. It's there for you to look at. You don't have to do it for me for a grade. You do it for yourself. See how it goes? It's awesome. And then there's more space for more, of course. But like you can see what I'm talking about, right? So then I'm gonna go back to my planning here. All right, so then I have the book, so you're gonna read aloud to students, make it interactive and amazing. And then you're gonna have your goal is to have them demonstrate that they know how print works. That was the goal that I got from the document, the short version of the Head Start document that I showed you that is on Canvas, okay? I highlighted for myself all those. And then I came up with like questions to ask. For example, on Monday, let me go back here. On Monday, what is the story about? For me ideas. Or what is your favorite part of the story and why? You can use those questions for fiction books. For nonfiction books, you can come up with other stories. But most of those books from my list, for example, this was the butterfly one. For example, I'm going to get the bean one this Friday. The Friday one already has questions at the end. If you look at those, the questions are Reread the text on page 10. What important thing do stems do for plants? Or how do bees help beings, plants grow? Or talk about the glossary, the glossary. What does it tell about the plants, the parts of the plant? So it already gives us those questions. You don't have to really come up with those. Like read more, it gives you websites for you, the Fact Hound website. I love this Pebble Plus from Scholastics. It's leveled for pre-K for Fontas and Panel. It's Capstone is the website, the publisher. It's awesome. They're awesome books, and they go with what elementary schools use. So it's like pre-elementary. Very, 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 very cool. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And then you have rotations. If you have an assistant or more, then you would have different stations. You would have a basket of books about life cycles and gardening and all that stuff for other students to be reading on their own independently. If they don't read yet, they're going to be exploring those books. That's one station. The other station is labeling my belongings activity. So one of the adults will be helping the kid label their things, like the backpack, or the hook where the backpack is at, and where the basket is, with their belongings, and so on and so forth. Excuse me. And then you have the name book. Students practice writing their name on a fresh page on their spiral notebook every day. They use their name cards. So they have their names on a card that's laminated. They can use that to copy their names. And then station number 4, spell my name with magnet station, using their name cards as reference. And I have a picture at the end. And they do that every day. You don't need to change your stations every week, okay? You can keep them. As long as it's not boring, you can keep them going. If the kids are excited, why not, okay? Art and appreciation. So I have the first day, students actually create a backdrop for the group. So the standard combines with intention a variety of open-ended, process-oriented, and diverse art materials. That's your standard. That's what you're assessing students. They're using different materials to create art. So they're gonna paint a garden backdrop as a group. So you're gonna give them a big piece of paper, have them paint a garden, like the bottom part of the garden, like, you know, landscape kind of thing, and then sky. Let that dry. And the following days, you're gonna have them then create different things about gardening. Like Tuesday can be hand imprint art. On Wednesday can be a bottle cap printed flower art that will give them a lot of like fine print, fine motor skills kind of work with the bottle cap. You have to do that. Super cool. And then on Thursday, they have handprint garden fruits and vegetables, because a garden can be for flowers and fruits and vegetables. So you can also mention that. And I put a link down there for them. And then on Friday, guess what? You're not going to be decorating the preschool on your own to show, you know, what they've done. So you're gonna do a few things. Number 1, have students help you decorate the walls of the school during the art time. You're gonna collect their artwork, their work pieces, and have them hang them up to display to their parents. The literacy connection here, you're gonna have them label their art pieces with their name tags. If they're already comfortable, they don't need their picture. But if they still need their picture, put that there. It kind of gives them a little bit of, you know, incentive. I would still use their picture for a while, because they might know their own name, but they don't know everybody else's. So that gives them more time to memorize more letters, more names, more combinations of spelling. I would do that. Now, I would teach them adjectives for the second part, art appreciation. That's another standard, is to use appropriate art vocab, it's right here, to describe own art creations and those of others. So have a fun discussion about the beautiful art. Once it's displayed and it's up, you're gonna share with students a few adjectives to describe their artwork. So you're gonna write it on a piece of paper, what I have in blue right here. I love Angela's artwork so much because it is Then you can teach them colorful, stunning, unique, original. You can teach them adjectives so that they can describe each other's work. Write both sentence frame and words on colored paper to display on the wall. Have them discuss their artwork, describe what they see, so that they can start doing the same. So they're going to label, they're going to talk about their art, they're going to feel proud of that. And then when their parents come to pick them up, they can actually, you know, show them, right? That's what you want them to be doing. Now, for math, this unit doesn't really, for the first week, it didn't lend itself to a lot of mathematical concepts. But what I found that could be really easily done is for the first goal for math is children will demonstrate understanding of number, names, and order of numerals, size or measures, the number of items in a set. So for that particular standard, found the activity is called beans and flower pots counting activity. They have beans and they have to put the exact number of beans in each of the cups from 1 to 10, and then you can gradually increase that number of cups as they get more proficient. They can do that individually or in a small group of 2 or 3. I wouldn't do that with the whole class. So it's a good time for you to sit down with the kids. I didn't put any math games there, but it says here robotics or math games. You can add dominoes if they're ready for that, or puzzles, other things that you know they're excited about, blocks as well. For when they're done with that, they can transition to other things in case you still need more time with the class. All right. Now for sensory or cooking class, dramatic play, exploratory play, creative development, I have incorporated like a little bit of literacy and a little bit of like sensory. Okay, so you have writing their names with Play-Doh, and then it's called and also the sensory bin that has the little so the magnetic letters. There's magnetic letters in Play-Doh, and then free play time, because they need to have at least an hour. Remember, good preschools have at least a free hour of play. So we need to remember we have to have those times embedded. So I have that for the whole week. Can it be more exciting? Yes. But the focus of my unit is more science, social studies, and literacy. So that's okay. My next unit might be a little bit more, it may be balanced differently. So you just have to remember that and change it up. The following week, I can totally go strong on drama and cooking and do something totally different, depending on where I'm at with my unit. All right, social studies and science. That's what I did. I did the first day doing the discussion of the images. What do you see? The KWO chart that you saw the video. What do you know about life cycles? And then the next day, what do you want to know? And then adding with a different color if she had more things. I didn't do that part on the video, but you can add new things that they want to learn about. And then after that, teach them, do an input chart, a poster of the life cycle of a plant on big poster paper, so they learn. And then on Friday, plant their seed. Ask students to hypothesize what will happen to the seed. Have them tell you. Write that down on a big poster paper so you have it recorded. And maybe write their name so you can use that as assessment so their parents know, oh, this is what so-and-so thought would happen to the seed, so that you can talk to them about it later. And then wrapping up the day, that video that we watched about the daily sign in and sign out of the kids writing their names. Okay, go sign in, you're here today, that's your attendance, is here, that particular link. That's on Monday. You're going to introduce that to them, say, hey, we're going to start doing that. And then on Tuesday, you actually do it, right? But then at the end of the day, you're going to go over what happened during the day, what they learned, reward their positive behavior, talk about the behavior chart, how you're going to be using it, and then answer the question of the day. Do they have an answer yet? Like, ask about it. Do they have an answer yet? If not, Tell them to ask their parents or friends and come back the next day with the answer. You can have quiet time, drawing and playing with blocks, and then dismissal time. And then the next day is the same thing. You introduce the chart, tell them how you're gonna do it. You can model it if you don't have that in place yet. And then on Thursday, talk about the show and tell, right? And then on Friday, you're going to be sending a homeschool connection, okay? It's gonna be a read aloud of the fiction book, Miss Maple Seeds. It's a read aloud that is really cute, actually. And then, of course, you're gonna have the parents do the Can You Plant a Bean, the YouTube video that I showed you guys that she was dancing, that I was dancing to. You're gonna share those links with the parents on Friday so that they can do that during the weekend. The homeschool connection is so important. So if your school has an app, you can share it through the app. If you are more like old school, paper pencil, paper computer, like just print your little, newsletter, do that, or email, or whatever. Pigeon, send your message through a messenger. I don't know. Send a smoke signal. Just do it. Your parents are gonna thank you for it. So I will show you what the link for the read aloud looks like. And it looks like this. Super cool, actually.
Hi, welcome to Brightly Storytime. I'm Miss Linda, and today we're going to read Miss Maple Seeds, Story and Pictures by Eliza Wheeler. On a bright August morning, Miss Maple flies home.
You get the idea. So the parents will read with the kids, and then on Monday, the following week, for week 2, you would continue your planning, and then you would just kind of start the day talking about, oh, did you guys read the book with your parents on YouTube and all that stuff. So for week 2, you can kind of wrap that up and talk about it. So basically, your lesson planning for the week, either with your partner or alone, individually, you're going to choose to do it on your own or not. You're going to do that. So then you start with your goals right there. See right there? I copied that from that document. So I'm going to open that document for you to see, all right? I'm going to close this, close. Oh, let's see what I'm going to close. Close that. All the standards. Okay, closed. Okay, I'm going to go to modules. Okay, and I'm going to open my short version. Let me see my short version of my, this is my document, see? So I'm going to each of the domains, approach to learning, and I'm going to find preschool because that's the age I chose. And I'm gonna find, see the goals right here? I'm gonna find what I wanna focus on for the week. I could have chosen goal 1, 2, or 3. And I'm thinking a good idea would be making those goals into like maybe a spreadsheet would make it easy so I know how many times I've taught the same standard. So I'm not repeating the same thing over and over again. Next week I can teach something different or either repeat or not. So that's a good question that somebody might have, like, oh, does every week do I have to have new goals? No. Sometimes if students have not mastered those particular skills, you teach the same goals with new activities, all right? And then remember that you have those other books that I mentioned to you with all those awesome activities that you can pull from for your curriculum planning. They have different themes, but they have awesome ideas on those. You can just change the theme and use the same concept to plan. So these are your goals. This is what I used. You might feel like you want to use something else, but those are the goals you can use to pull to do your curriculum planning. And then you're gonna just copy paste from here into your file. That is your blank template. And you're like, where is that at? And I'm going to show you. You go to modules again. And when you're here, so I put all the early learning documents on top. And then class 1 is right here. Our PowerPoint, the syllabus. Now, here's our class 2. Here is your assignment. This is your blank template. Look at this. See what you see? You're gonna download, click on it. You're gonna download it. It'll look like this, blank, see? Then you're gonna copy paste from that document that you also downloaded. And that's what you're gonna do for your objectives. What are the kids learning? Copy paste there. And then you can start planning your circle time, your music and movement, your literacy, your art, math, social studies, science, your focus for the week, and then everything else if you want to add more, like your books. Okay, so this is kind of how you're going to do it. And this is the example that you have. See? I tried to make it extra beautiful, extra colorful for you, so that you try to have the best example possible for yourself. Now, I think the most important part is understanding that you have to have goals for learning. And I think that going to Canvas and using those documents that I just talked about, like the short version of those goals, the short Head Start document, the short version with all those goals, either for infants and toddlers or for preschool, that's gonna be key for you to know where to pull those from. Now, art, they didn't have anything for art. So when you look at this here, like I have the Florida Art Standard that I got from that cool website that when you go to modules, the first one on top right here says Florida Learning Standards. It takes me right to the Florida website. And I go to Creative Expression through the Arts, click on my learning, my target age, and then I can just choose sensory art. And then I can copy paste that. I can click on the I, and it's gonna show me what kids can do. I can visit children's classroom to enjoy a gallery of the children's artwork, or coach self-regulate. Like there's a bunch of different ways to show that. So it gives you ideas on how to promote those things in the classroom. Is this gonna be easy? No. Can you do it? Yes. Can you do it on your own? Yes. Can you do it in Spanish? Yes. Can you do it in English? Yes. Just do what you feel is gonna be relevant for you. Now, how do you turn it in? Once you download, so when you go to modules, and you're here on Canvas, class 2, you click on week 1, online assignment, you click on that, download, use that as your blank template, right? You type everything in there, save it to your computer, save that puppy, save your document with your name and everything. When you're done, what do you do with it? The best way to turn it in is clicking in the drop box right here, okay? Let's see. Oh no, let's see. I wanted to do student view. I don't think it's gonna let me. I wanted to show you how it looks like, but because I don't have student view, I don't know how to show you. But once you click on the Dropbox means you're dropping your assignment there. You're turning it in there. Your file is gonna go in that. Once you click on it, it's gonna say choose your file. Where is it saved? And so you're gonna find it in your computer and then send it to your instructor, or in this case, to me, right? So you're gonna click on it, and you're gonna choose your file, save it, and that's it, all right? You shouldn't have trouble with that. You and your partner can collaborate via email. You can also have Zoom. You can create a free Zoom account and do this together over the computer. You can share your screen, all right? It's great. You can also do Google, the Google Drive is also another way. I'll be probably recording a video on how to use your Google Drive to do PowerPoint slides with a group, or how to do a Word document with a group. And you all at the same time can be logged in, or you can go at different times and do that. Okay, I'll be doing a separate video on that to help you. All right, so stay tuned for that video. And I think, let me go back to my PowerPoint. Before I finish up, the last part of the template is the weekly focus, right here. I kind of wrote, sorry, it said bottle. I was supposed to write bottle. Bottle cap art, paint, like ways that I worked on each one of those things. I typed that up there. And then what am I gonna keep for my portfolio? Well, I'm keeping one of their art pieces for their binder. So when instead of having them put all their artwork on the wall and label on Friday, I'm gonna keep one for their portfolio. And then I'm gonna label it what I have at the bottom. It says, Art Standard 1 combines with intention a variety of open-ended, process-oriented, and diverse art materials. And I'm gonna put that with the art, with their name in their binder as piece of evidence for that standard, for that student in their binder. So I'm thinking about evidence of learning, okay? What else? So your turn now. You can do it individually or with a partner. Connect through the discussion thread if you wanna hook up with somebody. Download the file that is on Canvas, and you're also gonna turn it in individually. So if you work with a partner, you both have to have a copy of that file for yourselves. So you can turn it in like for yourself. Even though you worked with somebody, you put both of your names. See what it says teacher right there? Put your name and your partner's name if you did it with somebody. But you turn it in your own so we know to grade you appropriately, right? And then type in your stuff, do a very good job. And how do you find your online assignment? How do you turn it in? Again, so on Canvas, you're gonna find your online assignment, download that, and then once you type all your answers in, you save that file. That file goes into the Dropbox when you're ready. All right? So how do you collaborate with someone in this class? You can watch my next video for more information, okay? I'll be recording that next. All right? Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.